progress.
And welcome to the Pride of Detroit PODcast Purview podcast. That still sounds unwieldy, whatever. It's fine. We do things. I'm Chris Perfett, at Chris Perfett on Twitter, Perfett, here to bring you another week of wonderful previewing for the week the weekend to come for Detroit Lions football. Thanks to everyone who stepped in for me last week while I was out getting drunk on islands and in San Diego. And in other parts of LA, getting drunk again. And then I watched the Lions game and I got drunk again. A lot of drinking. A lot of drinking is what we're basically coming back to. Also with me tonight is Brandon Knapp at BKnapp Blogs, BKNAPP Blogs. Hello, Brandon.
Hey, how's it going? Hopefully you were sober enough to enjoy the victory and we're suffering the consequences of that.
I never suffer any consequences. That's a lie. I suffer consequences for things that I take the brunt of. Speaking of consequences, Hamza Bakush is with us at Hamza POD, punt god himself here. Hello.
Well, that's one way to introduce it. Yeah, you're on the hot seat, Chris. Miko filled in admirably last week, but it is nice to have you back.
Admirably, but not adequately.
Your words, not mine.
Well, I think he's adequate too. I think he's better than adequate. We've got a lot to break down, actually. It kind of creates a problem as we go through a very busy week of rumors, conjectures, swirling things all around, several people with fake tweets, and all kinds of big news. Let's start, because a lot of this first segment, I feel like we're going to be talking about the Lions and the defensive line, because that is the big question right now. No surprise, the Lions are without Aiden Hutchinson for the remainder of the year now. He has healed up well from his surgery, but not going to see him back in 2024. Kyle Peko also went on the injured reserve as well, which leaves the Lions in a lurch with very few defensive linemen on the current roster right now. Lions really looking for help, Brandon, on the defensive line. Still a while before you could see someone like John Kaminsky come back from injury, other way around. Like, there's been a lot of talk in the air as far as trade rumors this week.
Yeah, I really think when it comes out to like trades in general, everyone just keeps talking about Max Crosby. It's stop talking about Max Crosby. Max Crosby is not going to happen. Brad Holmes has told everybody what the plan is for this organization and what they're going to do, and they're not going to go ahead and mortgage that future just for somebody right now. They want to be a sustainable franchise that's going to be around for a while, and competitiveness, and just throwing that all away just for Max Crosby is not something they're going to do. Personally, I would really like Trey Hendrickson out of Cincinnati. I think he'd be a good fit. I know he wanted out around the draft time last year or this year, so I know he'd probably be open to leaving. But the more Cincinnati wins, the harder that's going to be for them to kind of let go of him. So for me, I got to cheer for the Bengals' downfall for that. I'm not sure if Hamza has any other alternative ideas that jump out to him for trade targets, but that's who I have for me.
Man, we're really diving right into trade targets. I do agree with you there. I don't think Max Crosby's happening. I just think it's one of those situations where I think roster-wise, it made sense for the Lions historically, but if Brad Holmes hasn't pulled the trigger on that yet, I'm sure he's covered his bases, explored it. It's common knowledge Crosby wants to be here. So I assume he's explored the price wasn't right. And I don't think, hesitating from or making an overcorrection from Hutchinson's injury is the right move to overpay. Now, I do think Trey Hendrickson is a good candidate as far as what the Lions look for and how he would fit as far as replacing Aiden Hutchinson. My reservation with that is that He wanted out of Cincinnati because he wanted to be signed to a longer term extension, get paid more after a big season. He's 31 years old, if I'm remembering correctly, and I just don't think that's the kind of move, even if the price is right, that you want to make without necessarily guaranteeing a longer future there. A guy I have my eyes on, I really like Jamin Davis out of Washington. He was picked first round, I think, in 2021. He's less of a true pass rusher style like Aiden Hutchinson, but he fills more the Derek Barnes role. And I think if you fill the Derek Barnes role, that really frees everyone else up to really put their ears back, pin their ears back, and go at the pass rusher. Because I think one of the biggest things we'll see in the coming weeks, Aiden Hutchinson had really masked the loss of Derek Barnes. Derek Barnes was a terrific edge setter, very high IQ, very disciplined player. And when the Lions lost him, Hutchinson fills that gap. We've seen a lot of maturity out of him the last off season, 2 off seasons, and as far as the run game goes. And now that the Lions are down Hutchinson as well, I think the contain in the run game, the edge discipline is going to look a lot weaker. And I think filling the gap on Derek Barnes with a guy like Jamin Davis would go just as far for this Lions roster as filling a gap for Aiden Hutchinson with a pass rusher.
Yeah, and the Lions still have to try out, some of their other. That's a good point on Derek Barnes, especially considering how many we've seen kind of rotate as they try to figure out the linebacker situation as well. Clearly enough, they just don't have anyone really that can run Sam in his position right now. They can run through Rodrigo or Neiman, but no one's really taking Barnes' position either. I know the other popular name going on right now is Hassan Reddick. And again, I think the problem is, like you say, with Hendrickson, it's the same situation right there, right? He wants a multi-year deal. I think, though, the longer this goes on with the Jets, the more I wonder if they're just willing to just try to wash their hands of this. And maybe you just try to figure out something a little friendly. But as I said on the POD cast, I'm also not going to be surprised if the Lions approach the situation by just trying to moneyball in composite, 75% of his production. The problem is right now, as I've laid out, Broderick Martin on IR, Pico on IR, Nate Lynn, David Bada on IR, Marcus Davenport, John Kaminsky, Derek Barnes. A lot of the front seven is just not healthy right now. And the Lions are going to... I think where I start here is because the Lions have to make a move, no matter what. I just don't know if it's going to be from if it's definitely not probably something that can be game ready this week. I don't know if it's something off of a waiver wire down the road. It's probably something around the trade deadline, or even just signing some guys off a practice squad somewhere seems to be really. But they do need to make a move. There's just too many. There's I believe right now 2 active slots open, if I'm not mistaken, Brandon.
I believe so. I haven't seen. I know they signed Isaiah Thomas to the roster, but I don't know if they're at 51 or 52 right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree 100%. Like, they're not going to quickly, make a trade right now. I think they're going to try some people out, give some people some chances on the roster, give them a week or two. I know Al was saying earlier this week, he believes that they're going to try him out all 3 weeks and probably close to that deadline, maybe try and make a move if they can't find anybody, on the waiver wire. If they can't find anybody on the team itself, then they'll probably make a move. But I don't see them being urgent and hitting the panic button that quickly.
Yeah, it's a long season. So, if nothing else, Hamza.
Yeah, I think the Lions, it's just tough because you're kind of in no man's land here. If you're Brad Holmes, you don't want to overpay for a guy you wouldn't have paid for before. The alternative is going cheap, just finding a stopgap for this year. But any guy you find as a stopgap is probably going to cost you a 5th, 6th, maybe 7th rounder. But if it's worth your while, 5th or 6th, and then that guy's going to come back next spring, next summer, and you have a very crowded room. You just listed off all the 7 other defensive linemen on IR right now. You don't want to make that decision, and then it comes at the cost of a replacement level player or a guy who you're going to have to part ways with just because it's too crowded.
Yeah, but I mean, there's also some guys on there that I think they're going to part ways with regardless come next year. But we'll see. We'll see on all of it. One guy, and this is kind of a curious situation because I know, I bring up my friend Bo a lot, who I work with at Fox Sports Radio, and I know we were talking about Aleem McNeil this weekend, and we both love pressure up the middle. And Aleem McNeil got paid this week, a brand new contract for him. As I believe he said he was watching Reba and knew and it was the episode where, I don't know much about Reba. I guess there's an episode where a football player gets a contract. And he knew that exact episode that he was watching when he was told he gets a $97 million 4-year deal for the interior defensive lineman for the Detroit Lions. And I guess I look at last week, and I don't know how quickly potable 2 sacks against a a center clearly trying his damnedest for the Cowboys, but doing nothing. But I would hope at least maybe, you talk about the edge there, Hamza. Hopefully maybe some of that turns into some interior pressure. And, the Aleem signing and coming off of his Cowboys performance just once again highlights the talent he has. And, usually we think of Aleem as kind of a run stuffer, but maybe there's some hope in to try to emphasize a little more pressure up the middle. And that just might need, I know that doesn't solve run issues, but it certainly can probably, be a new direction where the Lions go on pass rush.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't hold my breath on that.
Yeah.
It feels like we've been saying that for 2 years now. I think that's has always been one of my quarrels not with Aleem himself. Great guy, love him on the Lions, but with the hype that he gets. I know it's not a bad thing as an almost nose tackle to be one-dimensional. He takes care of business in the run game, and props to him for that. But you're paying a lot for a guy who, it really feels like he breaks out for 3 or 4 games a year. And that's it. Like, as far as anything beyond run stuffing goes. And it just feels like a guy who, for that kind of money, I'd like to hear his name more. There's definitely going to be opportunity for him here. But I'm not holding my breath to replicate anything from the Cowboys game. That when the entire team is rolling, when the Cowboys are clearly dispirited, it's the same reason why, Trevor Nowaski comes in, gets a sack and a couple tackles for losses. I'm not expecting that to be replicated either, right? It's circumstantial. You got to read between the lines. But that being said, I'm excited for McNeil. I hope he continues to blossom. I know he's one of the best graded defensive tackles right now, and I'm sure, he's young. He's still going to continue to grow. But as far as pass rush goes, I wouldn't put the burden on him or expect anything out of that consistently.
Brandon, I'll let you go 1 second real quick. Chat is killing me right now because I had another Horrors divorce situation. Reba? Is that how you say the name? It's Reba? Okay.
It is Reba.
Reba. That is an E, short E. Like, I'm sorry. The English language needs to learn how to spell better. Sorry, go on, Brandon.
I was just going to say my biggest fear with now Hutchinson being out is now all the pressure has to be on the interior because, Josh Pascal, he's doing well. He's improving. If they put Levi out there, that's going to be fine. But that's not going to be as impactful as having an Aiden Hutchinson or having him and Marcus Davenport. So the pressure is going to have to be from that middle. And I think teams are going to start focusing on the interior more than the edge rushers, which means the edge rushers are going to have to step up, and going to have to contribute even more. Because that was the biggest issue when Hutchinson was here, back in 2022, was he has no help outside of Aleem in the middle. So it's easy for teams to focus on him and kind of block him out. No other pressure other way. Well, if all the good pressure is coming in the interior, they don't have to worry about the edge. So that's my biggest fear coming out. I will see if someone can step up and kind of, show out here.
While we're talking about guys stepping up, I think one name to keep an eye on, James Houston. Like, he never really came back from that ankle injury last year. And I know training camp wasn't the strongest, and there's a reason he hasn't seen the field this year. But if you're looking for pure pass rush, that's the one thing he can do. He stayed on this roster for a reason, right? And I would really hope the Lions can, I guess they're kind of getting their hands forced here. They don't have much of a choice, but throw him in there and maybe you get a little bit of help that way in third down situations, second and long situations.
Yeah, and for Houston in particular, we've talked about this before. Like, it's a chance for you to finally show some faith from back to the staff. Shows like, hey, you've been patient with me. I know I haven't been performing very well, but like, here I am. Here's what I can do again, just to really step up. And hopefully he still has that gear left still in him. One of the other big losses I believe the Lions will be dealing with, we are recording on a Thursday. Never say never, but very likely that Carlton Davis will not be playing this week as he goes through concussion protocol against the Minnesota Vikings, which would be a huge blow because Carlton Davis has been their best corner right now. And you're going up against some real sluggers in Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison right here. Pressure will be on Terrion Arnold, who absolutely definitely improved last week, I believe, as far as penalties that he's drawing. Hamza, I think he's a little less handsy, if nothing else. I haven't looked at too much, but how would you, if you're looking at these CBs, how are you stacking this up as you prepare to take on the Minnesota Vikings? And how big of a loss is Davis here?
Real quick, I want to correct you there. Carlton Davis is clear from concussion protocol.
Oh, excuse me.
He practiced because of a quad injury. So.
Quad injury. That's okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
But as far as corners go, I think this is actually a pretty favorable. I don't want to say favorable. The Vikings have a loaded receiving core, but size-wise, it's a good, relatively speaking, it's a good matchup for this Lions defense because inevitably, I think it's either what you throw Ennis Rakestraw into the fire, Kindle Vildor, a guy like him. I think, the most logical move is bringing Meek Robertson to the outside a little bit. He played a healthy amount of outside corner with the Raiders. I think he can step into that again. And you look at the Vikings, obviously you have Justin Jefferson. He's big bodied. He can do everything. Terrion Arnold is going to get thrown into the fire. That's going to happen regardless. It has to happen for him to learn, right? And so the next question becomes who's covering Jordan Addison, who in his own right could be a wide receiver one on several teams. And so he only comes in at, I think, 5'11", 175, 180, if I'm remembering correctly. That's a healthy amount for Meek Robertson. And I think that was my main takeaway from seeing so much of Robertson last week. I think we saw a lot more snaps out of him than we've seen any other game this year. And a lot of that was covering Jake Ferguson. And he was there in coverage. He was just, outboxed by a tight end who had like 7-8 inches and 60, 70 pounds on him. And so that gave me a little bit of optimism of like, okay, Robertson can hold it down in coverage. Obviously, Jordan Addison is going to be a much different threat than Jake Ferguson was. But I think that's your best bet. I wouldn't be surprised to see Kindle Vildor rotated in. But similar size profiles as well. As long as you have the speed to keep up with him, I think that's the priority here.
The only thing I don't like about Amik playing outside is that who's going to play nickel? Brian Branch. And Brian Branch is great. We all love Brian Branch, but then who's playing safety? Kirby Joseph and Brandon Joseph. I don't like that going up against Justin Jefferson. I'd rather have, the better duo in the backfield. So I think it just has to be Vildor or Rakestraw. Rakestraw, though, going into that kind of one's going to be kind of tough. So I would think they would kind of throw that towards Vildor more. It gives him more trust. He's been there, the veteran presence. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I think definitely going to be a lot of Khalil Dorsey, Kindle Vildor before we see any of Ennis Rakestraw. This would be a choice game to throw him to the Wolves.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back on the other side, I want to start looking towards the Minnesota Vikings. They have a few injuries of their own. We're going to chat about those. We're going to start breaking down this game a little bit closer, but it's been a busy week, so I don't mind going out and talking about some of the injuries and talking about all the interesting things that have been going on with the Lions. We'll be right back on the Purview Podcast. And I botched that so bad, I'm going to take a second and re-record me setting up this whole thing for Hamza on Carlton Davis because I did not get that update, I think.
Yeah,
when I was
you're
writing
good. I
the
didn't
notes.
want to cut you off.
No. It's like, I'm glad you correct me. I'm the only one who gets corrected. What?
I think it's an oblique.
I'm the only one who gets corrected
okay.
live half the time, so people just really have decided that I'm a fucking idiot or something, and I'm just kind of tired of it.
As of Eric's injury report update from 4 p.m., Carlton Davis is out with a
Is it quad? Okay. I thought I saw oblique.
Yeah, I've been kind of busy since 4 p.m., so I missed the concussion clearing. Okay, let me just re-record this part. So, one of the big questions the Lions will be facing this week is the question of Carlton Davis. Now, he did clear concussion protocol here on Thursday. However, there is an oblique that has shown up on the injury report. Something really
quad.
to keep an
Quad. I was wrong. It was quad. Hamza corrected me.
Third time's the charm.
I was the one that got that one wrong.
We might have to run with the original at this rate.
let me try it one more time. It's going to be quick. It's going to be quick. Yeah.
You're good.
And then we'll get to some stuff with chat. One thing we also have to touch on is potential big injury for the Lions. Carlton Davis dealing with a quad. He did clear concussion protocol. We are recording this on Thursday. Questions on whether he will play or not, once again circling in the air. You'd hope to have him because this is a very big matchup against guys like Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison on the Minnesota Vikings, and kind of creates a bit of a domino effect with the rest of the CB room. But Hamza, how do the Lions really attack this if Carlton Davis can't go on Sunday? This is the magic of podcasting. Usually you'd have to wear it. You're not going to get me, Liam. Actually, it's a hamstring. We'll just keep going. Quit whining. I never stop whining. Because I get, you say don't whine, and then I get the people who yell at me a lot. I do. Everyone makes mistakes.
About the
Yeah.
What was this? Something about the Jack Fox highlights. I did enjoy the Jack Fox highlights, and it's more trolling. We do this thing. We do a little trolling.
We do a little trolling. We do a little trolling. Oh man, it has been one hell of a busy week. The trade stuff is beyond fascinating, but yeah, like I think a lot of people are trying to find every little quote they can find of Max Crosby. Look, like I don't know. The Lions are gonna be paying all their guys, and they still have to pay Hutch.
Yeah, that's
honestly, I think the biggest thing is Brad Holmes been super smart. I never understood why more GMs don't do this. If you have a guy who's young and fits your team well, sign him to the longest extension you can. Like Penei Sewell has 6 years left. Like in 6 years, the salary cap is going to be $500 million, not 175. Like that's going to be pennies on the dollar.
He gets a lot. He is a drafting, and also too, like, and this is the thing about any of these big trades. I keep saying this. I don't want to take first and second rounders away from Brad Holmes.
Right. Yeah.
He's been so good with them. And I know they're going to be lower and lower, but even last year with pick number, what was that? 25,
I think.
25, 26.
It's like mid-20s.
Yeah, but still, like, he still turned that into some great players.
We were 29 because we just missed the Super Bowl.
29.
I mean, you could be missing out on a Brian Branch, God forbid.
Yeah. Like it does go to that you want to, and also too at the end of the day, I know what nobody wants to hear, but culture does matter, right?
Yeah.
Like,
which is also why we shouldn't sign Hassan Reddick.
Well, I think Reddick at this point is just tired of the Jets, and the mood in the Jets I can totally understand.
The red flag for me was really like obviously contract dispute, but his own agency dropped him last week, and he had to find a new agent.
Really?
Like,
okay.
If the agency drops you, I'm out. That's it.
Yeah, I when I saw that, and I was like, oh, okay, this is something different.
Yeah.
How unreasonable are you?
Mm-hmm.
It does create this weird domino effect too, where I think the Eagles would get a draft pick as well. I forget all the details off the top of my head right now, so it's very fascinating. Anyway, well, it's been one hell of a week. I did listen to. There's been some. Let's talk. You want to talk about a couple of bad opinions before we get back into it? I know we got to get out for Thursday Night Football, but let's talk. You want to talk about Mad Dog, or you want to talk about George Pickens?
I don't know who Mad Dog is. George Pickens, the whole thing does not bother me.
Yeah,
and I don't really get the uproar as people want to get uproar about.
What's the uproar? What did he do?
He was on a podcast, and he basically, I think the words he used was that Amon-Ra St. Brown is a slot merchant. That a lot of his production is coming just because he's playing in the slot. There was, I don't quite understand it, and like now people are saying it's taken out of context. But when you use those words, like I'm sorry, you're just demeaning on what someone is doing. He also, from what I could understand, seemed to have a problem with this idea that. Here's a couple words here. Scheme is the biggest thing in football. That's how you get Amon-Ra St. Brown's, slot merchants that schematically get fed the ball, which just isn't true.
I feel like to some extent, it's just like, it's one of those things where if he wasn't an offense designed, with that much chemistry and like, I don't know, thought into it, he would be probably a roughly 1,000-yard receiver elsewhere. Yeah. I think one of the things that always gets me with him is like, I can't really point to what he does well. He just doesn't do anything wrong. He does everything right.
St. Brown.
Right? Yeah. And so it's just like, if you're George Pickens, I kind of understand the frustration. Like I watch Amon-Ra St. Brown and I'm like, I can't point to what he's good at. But also, I mean, it's George Pickens. He's got to be mad looking at the situation.
Yeah, look at his touchdowns right now. Like Jared Goff has more touchdowns than him so far. But also, he seemed to have this one thing where it's like, where it comes to that, I ain't playing QB, O-line, and defensive line all at once. Schematically, I think that's the biggest thing for me to show the world my style. I wouldn't be here this long if I was running lazy routes. But I think, like, again, I'm not. I think on the flip side of that, you say there's nothing standing out for St. Brown, but like. I think we've seen so many of these guys who are just running routes too. Like St. Brown does everything. Like I would love to see what George Pickens does when he throws a block for a run play.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I don't know if you had any thoughts on it, Brandon. And then I could probably explain who Mad Dog is. I think Hamza
Yeah.
knows who Mad Dog is.
I,
Name rings a bell, but go ahead, Brandon.
I was just gonna say though, it just seems like George Pickens is jealous, but in my opinion, he's not 100% wrong. St. Brown is really good in the slot. That's a fact. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just the offense is, quick passes. He's
Well, I think when
quick
you
at
call
doing things. I don't.
when you call someone a slot merchant, it's like, oh, you're making easy passes over the middle, which is like
Not
anyone who
all of his
watches.
passes are
Yeah,
like that.
but I'm just saying, anyone who watches St. Brown like knows that those are not easy.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh no, but I mean, he also calls him a slot merchant, which I can see as a compliment. He's that good in the slot that he dominates.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't.
but
I don't
anytime you use
see it
merchant, it's an
that
insult.
negative. Oh well, I just thought he was just dominating so
yeah,
much. I don't know.
It's just odd. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just weird to take a shot at him, and there's been no like rivalry, no beef, no nothing. It just seemed kind of astray.
No,
Speaking of which,
this is
the
wide receivers being wide receivers.
yeah, Jordan Lewis, Aaron, or Jordan Lewis wasn't happy that Ross St. Brown aired their dirty
A little
laundry. They're like,
message.
why are you in the DMs after a game if you don't want to air it? They're like,
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
in the DMs too. Like, I'm sure you have his number.
Yep.
Wow. So the Mad Dog, Chris Russo, who is on, I believe, First Take, but also just more famous as one's being the co-host of Mike Francesa, has his own radio show. For some reason, he had Chris Christie on, and for whatever reason,
Oh.
Chris Christie, in spite of being the governor of New Jersey, has very strong opinions about the Dallas Cowboys.
Well,
And
yeah, because he's probably a Yankees fan, which means he's also a Cowboys
careful now. Um, I'm rooting for these Yankees right now just because I hate Cleveland.
Oh yes.
Um,
They can lose in the World Series.
yeah, but anyway, I believe the complaint was basically it's what everyone's was like. I saw a few Lions accounts chasing shadows this week, saying people they were mad. Basically saying, oh, people are saying Dan Campbell disrespected the Cowboys. Like, yes, we did, but kind of in a joking, and that's a good thing to disrespect the Cowboys way, even from Cowboys fans. But somehow Chris Russo and Chris Christie found the one take where they were actually serious about Dan Campbell disrespecting the Cowboys.
Yeah,
Which,
no.
fine, whatever.
They were more pissed at the refs and trying to get stuff at the refs than the Cowboys themselves. If they really were disrespecting, they would have kicked a field goal like I wanted them to make it 50, but they went for it on fourth down.
Go.
So that would have been the true, like, yeah, we're gonna add more points to this, but they didn't. So
Also,
and they brought in their backups. Like, come on.
they could
Yeah.
easily put
50
up,
burger would have been a bit like that would have been a real slap in the face. Obviously,
I wanted it so badly
but they were
though.
having fun. No one has
Yeah.
fun. Don't ever repeat this. No one has fun kicking field goals.
also, like, if you wanted more touchdowns, you could easily have them by having, like, I don't know, someone serious lined up at wideout instead of Taylor Decker.
Dan Skipper, yeah.
Dan Skipper, excuse me. Yeah, there we go again. Yeah, and Taylor Decker trying to catch a touchdown too.
Yeah, like,
Like
it
there
was
were
all
there were
fun
op-
and games.
there were all opportunities to get some.
Yep.
We're never gonna see the end of that Ben Johnson reaction clip.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
I
that's
haven't seen
getting
it in
used.
GIF yet,
Oh.
but I will use that.
I saw someone in the comments was saying that's how you know he has a toddler at home.
Yeah. It was a perfect
my
analogy.
God,
I've seen
yeah.
that too.
What is this game tonight? Hamza, I cannot believe you're going out.
Saints Broncos.
Saints Broncos. I cannot believe you are going out to watch this with people.
It's just like the mandatory background noise while I catch up with friends. And
That's fair.
Diet Coke, you know.
That is fair. That's fair.
The kind of thing where we know we have an excuse to leave at halftime.
I should be cooking. You know, it's too late. I've got some ribs. I was going to make a ribs recipe either tonight or tomorrow,
Too late.
but
It's what
4:00 here.
4 o'clock. Yeah, you can make ribs.
I
Yeah,
don't.
also-
I don't want to go through all that work. I made a huge mess during lunch. I've got some beef tonight anyway.
Yeah, it's a Sean Payton revenge game. This one might have a little substance to it.
The Saints are the one team I have fallen on my face about because, holy God, those first two games and then everything after that has been wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think their Vegas over under on wins this year was like 3.5 or 4.5. And
Really?
like the first two games, people were like, "Oh my God, what's happening?" And now it's starting to make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure they can get still at least 5. It's just
Yeah.
the injuries are piling up right now. So
I hate it just because I liked Jamal Williams posting his 2 Egyptian cats on Victory Mondays. I haven't seen them in a month now.
Is he still getting carries? I thought he got siphoned out of that offense at the end of last season.
It doesn't matter. He's still putting on the
He
jersey.
was he was on special teams I saw, and I was very
Yeah.
sad that he's playing special teams.
Yeah, I was gonna say at 29,
That's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
has
He
27
seems
carries for
to
103
he
yards.
seems to have a pretty good. I'm curious what he does after football at some point, just because he seems to really be enjoying like the kids and the anime stuff and everything. Like, put him on
He'll be in charge
Crunchyroll.
of yeah, he'll be in charge of something anime for sure.
Yeah.
He loves that way too much.
Let's see here. Let me get a couple alerts and we'll get back to it. Kubismo2, using their Prime subscription on Twitch, asks, did we just do this last night? Yes, we did have a midweek mailbag last night. That's how you know POD is back in full force. I'm back and trying to put stuff together. The Pine Tar, Prime, 3 months, time to smoke the Vikings out of their own house. We'll talk about it. Dirty Gert, also with 3 months, says Go Loins, Ninja Lions, Ninja Lions, Ninja Lions, Pride of Kool-Aid, Pride of Kool-Aid, plenty of emotes. Yep. I always love the Go Loins thing. And then Caleb Whitwer, 24 months, went to the game this weekend and our buddy got our car impounded, experienced all of Dallas. I'm
Oh.
sorry.
Oh, that
Wow.
sucks. That's not fun.
That is not fun at all. No. Yeah. Anyway, so I still haven't fully recovered from my fucking. That was a good, nice cap off coming back from having a full week with my mom to watch the Lions kick Cowboys'
Kick
ass.
ass. Yep.
Just I don't know. I insisted I did not want to go into that POD cast being down about Aiden Hutchinson, but I'm sure we'll feel it eventually. But I some people just they were treating it like a loss, so I was like, I don't want to go there just yet.
Yeah, it definitely sucked the room out of me and my friends. When we were watching it, we were just silent for like 5 minutes. We're like, all right, well, we're winning, but this doesn't feel right.
I was on my way home and I was listening to Dan Miller on the radio, and the way he first described it, I thought for a second that he was saying that Dak Prescott was down.
Mm.
So it took me a second before I realized he was talking about Hutch, and then it was like, oh no.
Yeah, because you saw him go down, and we're like, get up, and we're like, he's not getting up.
He's
That's
not
not
getting
good.
up. He took everything off right away.
Yep.
Yeah. Dude, the impound in Dallas is the worst, and they take it the farthest away possible. I could believe that. I don't ever want to go to Dallas. By the way, for those watching right now, I know I said I got to get back into it, and we'll do it soon because Hamza's got to go places. I don't want to watch the Dodgers tonight. Are you more of a Mets or a Yankees guy over there, Hamza?
I'm a Tigers fan.
I know.
Both those teams can go.
Good.
I'm not going to use
Right
words
answer.
because my mother listens to this. I'm a Tigers fan. If the Yankees
Good.
are playing, I'm a Mets fan. If the Mets are playing, I'm a Yankees fan. If they're both playing,
Meteor.
I'm a football fan.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
It's an insufferable time to be in New York right now. It's awful.
I saw your mayor wearing the both your indicted mayor wearing the hat with both logos on it.
I will say, like, everyone's giving him shit for it, but like, he's the one person in the world who I think gets a pass to wear that hat.
Also, like, I don't think there's another answer. If you just show up with as the mayor, you have to root for both teams.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't have worn the hat, but
Yeah.
you kind of have to say both Yankees, go Yankees, go Mets.
Pull the Rob Lowe, get a hat with the MLB logo on it.
Still my favorite image ever. I love that Rob Lowe image. Just the gift that keeps on giving. All right, we'll jump back into it. Oh, I had not taken this offline on our offline view. I completely forgot about that. My apologies, chat. I'm gonna get some water real quick while I'm waiting for the silence to roll. Pride to Detroit preview podcast continuing on here as we get you ready for the Minnesota Vikings. We went a little overboard talk about some Lions news, so let's now talk about the Minnesota Vikings. I believe this week I did see that there will be no TJ Hawkinson for the Minnesota Vikings, so that is at least one blow to their offense. And I know, Brandon, that they have been like waiting to get a tight end back to really round this whole offensive front out, but for the time being, no TJ.
Yeah, I mean they've been 5-0 without him, so they're gonna have to wait another week or two. So I don't really think him not being there is gonna have a huge impact on what they're planning on doing right now. But week 18, once that comes around, it's gonna be a different story for us.
Yeah. We've also got the situation, Hamza, that Aaron Jones, I believe he's trending towards playing, is last I saw. That said, I did see the Vikings did trade for Cam Akers. So they're clearly still concerned about Aaron Jones and his status for this weekend. And I think kind of what Sam Darnold has kind of hit up is that Aaron Jones is still a really good running back for them.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you look at a lot of it's scheme. I mean, how many players are coming to Minnesota now and having sort of a revival, the same way that, like, would have been smart for Jamal Williams to stay in Detroit. You let DeAndre Swift go, he doesn't do better. Dave Montgomery comes here, has the time of his life, right? Aaron Jones is a damn good running back. He was damn good in Green Bay, and he'll continue to be even better in Minnesota because it's an offense that really affords things for everyone. Now, he is trending towards playing. He didn't practice on Wednesday. Today, Thursday, he had a limited practice because of a hamstring. Obviously, with a hamstring, that kind of stuff is delicate. Sounds like he's trending towards playing, but I mean, we saw it with Jahmyr Gibbs in week 1 as well when he was coming back from a hamstring. You don't always look right, even if you're on the field, even if you're suiting up and playing, getting plenty of snaps. And I think something like a hamstring where you come back limited practice on a Thursday, I just don't see you being 100% on Sunday, even if you do suit up. I would expect him to be a little slower. To that end, I would almost rather see Aaron Jones play than Cam Akers. If he rips a big run, we're going to look back on this and laugh. But yeah, bringing in Cam Akers too also signals, maybe they want to take a little load off, let him take his time, especially at his relatively older age now for a running back, and get that fully healed in midseason. They're obviously gunning for a longer season in the playoffs, and Cam Akers, as a running back, that's one of the few positions I think you can trade for in the middle of the week and expect heavy output by Sunday. So yeah, it should be interesting. But Cam Akers, I can't say I watched a ton of him down in Texas, but last I saw in LA and initially with the Texans, he did look like he lost a step since that Achilles. And I don't know if he's got that full speed back, but if there's an offense where he can get it back and get the opportunity, it's going to be with the Vikings.
Yeah, I really think that the trade for Cam Akers is a sign of how healthy Jones really is. I don't think they would have made that trade if they thought Jones was just minorly going to be out. Also, I think it speaks to their trust in Ty Chandler. Because Ty Chandler is the backup right now. And if they don't trust him to take over for a week or two, and they have to bring someone else in, that might be a sign that he might not be doing as well either. Cam Akers has been playing; he's been doing fine. So I can definitely see him kind of getting more reps than Aaron Jones this week, just because he's been so active. It's not like he's coming off the couch. But I definitely think Aaron Jones is going to be limited this week for sure.
Yeah, we talked about some of the edge stuff with the Lions that they have to figure out now without Aiden Hutchinson. And I think the run game is going to be a big question because, again, the Lions would like to see Sam Darnold probably air this out quite a bit in this game. I know that sounds terrifying when you're dealing with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison on the other side of it. But, I mean, I'm looking at the opponents the Vikings have faced so far, and I don't think really many of them have put up a tremendous amount of pass rush on the Vikings O-line, which has allowed Sam Darnold to kind of sit there and just deal the way he has dealt. Brandon, Sam Darnold is the big question here, and it's the big question for all of it. Minnesota comes in number 1 total team DVOA, but they're 18th in offense for defensive value over average is the metric. For their first in defense. We'll talk about the attacking their defense in a second, but really the offense, I think, hasn't really been tested right now. But without Aiden Hutchinson, I'm curious how the Lions attack this out here, and particularly attack Sam Darnold, because I think everyone's kind of waiting to see what happens with Sam Darnold. A lot of opinions that he's for real. A lot of people with reservations about what he is. I think he's fine, but certainly don't go for this MVP talk that other people are
Yeah,
having.
yeah, the MVP talk is just going too far. I really see that a lot of people, talk about Jared Goff. How will he be without Ben Johnson when he leaves? That's people's biggest gripe with signing him to an extension. And if you look at Sam Darnold, he's on pace to have his best year ever. And I give that more credit to Kevin O'Connell than anybody else. He's been in multiple teams, multiple different systems, and it seems like he's found the right one. And I put a lot more of his success, like I said, on Kevin O'Connell than Sam Darnold himself. Maybe they're making the offense easier for him. He hasn't really impressed me with his play. He's done well. He hasn't done horrible, but he has not been MVP level of type of play. When you have Justin Jefferson, it's going to be kind of easier to kind of throw the ball. Addison's doing fair. Jalen Naylor has stepped up for Minnesota. He seems to be the number two there, at least trying to compete. He's got 3 touchdowns. He's got two more than Addison. So they're definitely going to rely on the pass game for sure. And the best way to do that is to just make sure your coverage is well, make sure you have your safeties back there, because last thing you want is Justin Jefferson just burning one of your corners and having no help. So I really think the Lions can take down the Vikings and Sam Darnold and really show that he's not the MVP candidate that people want to kind of throw him into.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting setup for Aaron Glenn because in the past, when the Lions have been down Aiden Hutchinson or when his pass rush was slowing, or they just didn't have support around him, a lot of that creativity came from bringing blitz from the second level, whether it's linebackers or really safeties. We saw a ton, occasionally even Kindle Vildor, Khalil Dorsey last year. And that's just a risk you probably don't want to play with against Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. You don't want to bring Brian Branch to the line of scrimmage when that's the situation. So that being the case, it's kind of pick your poison for Aaron Glenn. I'm really curious to see how it goes this week. I would have loved to see a more fair assessment of how this defense matches up against Minnesota. I do think objectively, it's going to be I wouldn't go as far as a Matt Flynn-esque day, but I think it's going to be a day for Sam Darnold. But I think the Lions' real bread and butter comes with being aware of their matchups in the Lions' offense against the Vikings' defense and against Brian Flores. But I know we'll get to that.
Yeah, there is no one who has more yards on the what was this? More receiving. The one who has the most receiving yards against the Detroit Lions in 8 games is Justin Jefferson. He feasts on the Lions more than anyone else out there. And it's kind of why I pointed to Carlton Davis, because you would just hope you have him and you're able to kind of deal with that, what Justin Jefferson brings. But ultimately, I think what you want is to get the if you're going to deal with the Minnesota offense, you're just going to have to put them in the red zone, shorten the field on them, and just hope that your two safeties who have been phenomenal at taking the ball away in the end zone are the ones who are going to be able to create some proper takeaways. And then, then it just comes to going out there and dealing with the number one DVOA defense in the league right now against the Minnesota Vikings, which has really been the bigger story because they've been really good, and with a lot of pieces that have just kind of had new life with a new scheme over all of it right now. What probably concerns you the most, Brandon, going into this game, looking at this Vikings defense in a matchup scenario?
I would say it's a kind of little combo both of how much they blitz because they lead the NFL in blitz rate and how well they are at stopping the run. So it's going to have to either be quick passes for the Lions offense, if because the offensive line, they can't block 8, 9 people, they can't block 7. They're going to have to get some help. If they have 2 tight ends in there with them, that'll be helpful. But if they can slow down the Lions offense when it comes to the ground game, even a little bit, making David Montgomery not as effective, it's going to be hard. But if they can do it, I think that's going to limit the passing game, and that's going to definitely give the Lions offense some fits. So I would say definitely it's going to be them trying to stop the Lions' run offense is probably the biggest thing I'm worried about. But if the Lions, they have a good offensive line, I think they can kind of work through that, and they can kind of go ahead and open up the run game with the run game success. You get the play action pass, and overall the offense will start to click.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Obviously, the run game has been the Lions' bread and butter. I think one of the biggest matchups this week is going to be Frank Ragnow against Harrison Phillips. Harrison Phillips has been lights out at nose tackle this year, just absolutely unstoppable. Now, he did have a shoulder injury. He missed practice up until today, Thursday. So he returned to limited practice today, same timeline as Aaron Jones. So we'll see what happens with him. If he can't go, that's going to be night and day for the Lions offense. If he can go, Frank Ragnow's Frank Ragnow, and I'm hoping he can pick that up. Now, similarly, Kevin Zeitler did have a groin injury pop up Thursday, so he had limited practice. If he can't go, then that's another issue, right? And nose tackle can easily make his way around the guard. Coyote Alcica has stepped in pretty well when he did earlier in the season at guard when Graham Glasgow had to shift over to center. But obviously not something you want to have to do on a weekly basis. I think also Jared Goff has had, I don't want to say he's had Brian Flores' number, but Brian Flores does a really good job of shutting down really good quarterbacks. He's very creative, gets in their head. That didn't work against Goff last year. Goff last year in their 2 games against the Vikings, his 2 games is with Brian Flores as the Vikings defensive coordinator, 577 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I'll put that, box score for box score against any other quarterback that's faced Brian Flores and this Vikings defense twice. And I'm really curious to see if he can keep that up a third time. I think, like you said, Brandon, it starts with the run game. A lot of kind of variables in limbo there as far as who's going to play, who's not. But really interesting to see how that matches up a third time.
Yeah, especially when dealing with the Vikings defense, just attacking it up front opens up pretty much everything. Because I think, we talked about this on podcasts, but the way it is going to be for the Lions is if you're not with the defense really hurting without Hutchinson now and without a lot of their D linemen, you're going to have to start to just, as we talked about on PODcast, you have to make sure that you're going to be able to still beat them on the offense more than anything. And you've been doing that very well over the past few weeks. And the good news is Ben Johnson also says, no, I've still got more trick plays too. You didn't see all of them against the Dallas Cowboys. The well is very, very deep in dealing with that.
Yeah, I really want to see an offensive lineman touchdown, preferably Penei Sewell. I really want to see that this year.
We almost had it.
Yep. Yep.
It was so close. Brandon, I believe you like to have a sleeper every time we do a podcast. So here's the Nap sleeper. Who you got?
I'm going to go with Josh Pascal. It's going to give his chance to kind of start breakout, try and be that starting defensive end, that number one guy that they can kind of lean on to kind of bring the most pressure. I mean, he's been doing well. He's been trending upwards throughout the season. Now it's definitely his time to shine.
Anything, Hamza? Any sleepers for you? You want to get in here, or any thoughts on
I mean,
Pascal?
shoot, well, let's call a wild card. You know what? Ali McNeil got his extension. I don't think it's he's going to be the D lineman shining this week. I'll call Levi Onwuzurike. I think in Hutchinson's absence, the floor is his. We've seen a lot of flashes out of him. I'll take it to him. I think he'll run it up the box score this week.
I think people are still waiting for the really big Sam Laporta game coming down at some point here. I feel like this seems to be the game where Laporta can really take off. We've had a lot of other guys kind of sneaking up. I really do believe this Lions passing game has completely opened up now that Tim Patrick is just fully going nuts out there. Had a touchdown taken away from him against the Cowboys, but Lions kind of working Allen Robinson into their lineup as well, which is going to be interesting to see if he's even active, though. But either way, we've been waiting for the Sam Laporta game, and I know everyone knows who Laporta is, and they've been covering him pretty heavily to stop it. But at some point, I feel like he's going to get his due in this game. And I think I feel pretty confident thinking about that as we look towards things we think we know about the game.
Yeah, I would say the one thing I think I know is David Montgomery is this year's Christian McCaffrey, as in the man's going to score in every game. Yeah, I really believe he's going to at least have one rushing touchdown a game for the rest of the season. So I'm going to say bank on it. David Montgomery will score a touchdown this game, whether it's receiving, rushing, does not matter. He will 100%. It's an easy one. I'm going easy this week, but it's easy money.
Shoot. I don't know. What do we know, man? I don't think I know anything entering this week. There's so much in limbo. I like yours, Brandon. David Montgomery runs forward. He doesn't run backwards. So I'll just tag team yours.
Yeah. I think you're right, Hamza, is that we still need to see what this Lions defense is going to be in dealing with it. And clearly the solutions aren't going to come overnight either. I think we have to be cognizant of that. And I mean, if they lose to the Vikings, which is still a possibility, this is in Minnesota, it's home field for the Vikings. You're down 2 D linemen after last week. Like, I know there's going to be panic if the Lions lose this game, but I love to keep saying long season, and I know it kind of rings hollow sometimes, but it is a long season. Chances for the Lions to miss out on the playoffs are still kind of slim at this point. I know everyone's panicking a little bit about how this NFC North division has stacked up, but like the Lions, this is their first NFC North matchup. You're going to get the Vikings again near the end of the season. They're coming off a bye as well, which is, what the Lions did to the Cowboys. So it's a tricky spot for the Lions to be in. I'm just not going to sell any Lions stock right now as they try to deal with the future minus Hutchinson and Pico and a bunch of other D linemen.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, the Vikings are by record the best team in the league right now. Like I don't think there's any reason for panic if the Lions lose, especially if it's, fairly close, which I anticipate it'll be no matter who wins.
And no matter what, they have a fairly favorable schedule the rest of the way too. Like it is
5 more divisional games. Like, I mean, you take care of business against the Packers, against the Bears, like you will land in the playoffs. And most importantly, the Lions play the Vikings week 18 at Ford Field. That's going to be a good game no matter what happens this week. It's going to be meaningful.
Yeah, I just mean the Vikings have a pretty just. I don't know where their losses are going to come. They're going to take some losses. It's just I look at them and they're getting like Colts and Jaguars and Titans. Some of those teams the Lions get as well.
Or we.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we get the Titans next week. Yeah.
Titans and then Jaguars like 2 weeks later, and then Colts like 2 weeks after that.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, but I'm not going to. This is why I didn't want to doom too much on the Hutchinson stuff, but I also kind of had this sinking feeling like Lions, this is their toughest game yet, and it is a bit of a doozy here.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too, because I mean, even if Hutch isn't coming back the next several months, but like it gives you time to figure things out. If you don't have the answer this week, like those are lower stakes games over the next 6-7 weeks that you can recalibrate before the end
right.
of the season.
And if you want to work in Isaiah Thomas, he's going to need time to get ready to go too. If you need to make another trade, that's going to need time to get. These aren't just plug and play situations. Like I know there's been some trades that have happened around the league. We talked about Cam Akers and there was a few wide receiver trades, but as you said, Hamza, like a lot of those are just kind of really plug and play versus what the Lions need right now are guys who will have to, practice, get the scheme and get ready to go. So, final thoughts from anyone? Brandon, Hamza?
Go Lions, baby.
I just have a quick question for Hamza. I know you were saying that you were going to see possibly a Matt Flynn-esque game almost for Sam Darnold here. Are we going to see like a Nick Mullins 400-yard game from Sam Darnold?
Well, he had 400 yards and what, like 3 interceptions?
Yeah.
If he has that, I'll take that every time they play.
I was just curious. I don't know if he'll get 400 yards, but I was just.
If Kirby gets
checking
his bread, then I'm good with it.
Oh, he will. I believe it.
Eat it. All right. I'm Chris Perfett. Find me on Twitter at Chris Perfett, Perfett. Brandon Knapp's at Brandon Knapp, at BNapp Blogs. I keep adding the S onto it because I keep thinking of the restaurant. And Hamza Bakush at Hamza Pod. Guys, this has been fun, as always, to knock this out. We'll see all of you Lions fans for Sunday for the game and PODcast come. Hell or high water, win or lose, we will be there. We'll see you Starside.
Recording stopped.
All right, we're done there.
GG, boys.
All right.
Nice. You take care.
Yep, you both out, or let me just...
Hamza's heading out.
Hamza's out? All right. I'll see you soon,
Hey,
Hamza.
hold on. I got my Panthers
I love
gear
the Panthers gear. I love that Panthers gear. I saw that
I was
out.
going to say, I hope we didn't miss that.
Oh,
No, I did
couldn't.
not. I have an old...
All right, I'll catch you guys later.
See you around, man.
Thanks for
We'll
having
see.
me.
Take care.
Yeah.
2-person off air. Oh, it's still set up for Brandon. Cool. Just hang around if you guys have any questions here a little bit. But I think I want to get out of here at some point too. I'm just trying to stick around for at least an hour live. Pressure around here dropped tremendously. It finally got cool in SoCal, and now I've kind of like been dealing with headaches and sleeping. And,
Oh, jeez.
It's the temperature drops and suddenly my head is just screaming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's starting to. We're having a little warm front here, starting tomorrow, so that'll be nice for a good 4 days.
And I think as Ruby is asleep, I want to be able to grab those things he's been laying on for almost a week. kind of take them. He loves it, and it's just an old blanket. It's not like it's a pile of laundry. It's just a couple old blankets. I don't want to move them. It's not like anyone else is around to use my carpet. It just, I've kind of been like really deep dive cleaning up around here, and I hate getting comments from people about a dirty, oh, why do you have such a mess in your apartment? I don't have a mess in my apartment. I don't. I get eye grains when weather and pressure changes. Yeah, it's like right around here, man. It's right around here when it happens. Thankfully, it hasn't happened today, but I just got news. I'm apparently going to be doing another super long shift on Sunday, so catch your boy up at 7 a.m. Eastern doing updates for Fox Sports Radio.
Damn. How long's your shift for that?
Well, that's going to be, so it'll be 4 a.m. local is when I'm, but I got to get there like an hour prior to do like, prep work.
Wow.
So my alarm is set at like 2:30 a.m. or so.
Wow.
And then I'm going to then jumping right from there over to, so that's like 7 to 9. And then I do my whole board technical producer shift until about 6 p.m. Eastern.
Okay.
And then I drive home, and then we'll do the podcast.
Yep.
So
busy day.
it is. It's always a busy day. I rely on a lot of caffeine. Trying to cut back on it as much as possible, but you do what you got to do to stay alive. Anyway.
Yep.
Who you got in this game tonight?
What, the Saints Broncos?
Sorry,
I wasn't sure if you
Saints.
asked him baseball.
Sorry, I said I'm going to watch the Dodgers, but I realized I don't want to watch baseball. I'd rather watch football, even shitty football.
That's fair. Probably the Broncos, just because Spencer Rattler is now gonna have Raheed Shaheed, so it's gonna be a blow. So Denver's probably gonna win that one.
Yeah, I don't think I have anyone in fantasy on either of these teams, so I'm just kind of watching.
Good check. I didn't check. Are you still in your one league? Your Survivor one?
Yeah, the guillotine, yeah, I
Yeah,
am. I
nice.
didn't have enough money to win. The guy who got cut this week had David Montgomery, and he got cut basically because he kept Matthew Stafford in at quarterback on a bye week. The problem is I don't have the remaining money to bid on David Montgomery, so I lost out on him.
Damn.
Someone dropped like $300. We all start with $1,000. I think the guy who won dropped like $300.
Wow.
For money. But I have James Conner and Jonathan Taylor, so I should be all right. And I believe Nick Neighbors is going to be healthy this week.
That's what I've seen. Seems like he's
Which is
gonna
good.
play.
I could really, really stand to use him and Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, I gotta see when Nick Chubb's gonna be activated. Probably tomorrow. His workload's still a work in progress. That sounds like he should stay in my IR. Unless I have to move you out.
Yep.
That works for me.
My stomach's doing. Hey, Ruby, what you doing, buddy?
You're like, good. Now he moved. I can grab the blanket.
Yeah, no, he's just coming over to grab a snack while I notice him. I've got to play with him during this game. It's kind of annoying, but
All right.
finally...
Well, I'll let you get going.
Yeah,
on
let's
that.
let's all get out of here. Actually, I will close up the stream right now. Let's
So.
see if I can raid anyone. Yes, actually, we are going to go raid. Can I raid from? No, I have to. Actually, I don't think I can raid because I'm not logged in on the. Let me see if I can raid from. Yeah, no, it's trying to get me to log in. I wish I could go raid Bridget Case. She's an old friend, former NFL cheerleader who we've had some raids with prior, but yeah, unfortunately not going to happen. But we are going to shut it down for everyone here and get out of here so you can enjoy the game, baseball, food, whatever you want to enjoy for the rest of the night. Look for this up on the podcast streams tomorrow morning. See you soon, guys.